We get off our boat on the docks of Ramasaz. What kind of a technology can we expect to see? Are there any steamboats, any guns, and what can we see the walkers wearing about their person? Let's find out. Last episode we got heavily sidetracked. We started the episode with a similar kind of premise and we dived heavily into the origins of Monibane and interdimensional elves. Today we'll stay on point and we will cover Lormyr, the first human continent in the Young Kingdoms. We will cover the major cities within Lormyr and what sort of landscape surrounds them. And all of that will be done at a very fast pace, of course, but we will try to dive into it so we get a much better understanding about the world of Elric, the militaries, and what the Lormyrian armory would look like, and much, much more. Before we get started, I'd like to remind everyone that if there are any inconsistencies or mistakes, please let me know in the comments and I'll address them in the following episode. And this episode, I'll also be including some of my personal art. It's not nearly as good as some of the wonderful Elric work that has been done over the years, but I would like to also start making a lot of it my own and having a more personal touch in this adventure that we will be sharing together for the next couple of episodes. So, let's dive in. There are many cities within Lormyr. Some deserve more attention than the others, and we'll cover a couple interesting ones. Those include the Grand Capital, a frozen frontier that is Alorasaz, the naval hub that built the naval fleet to match Monibane's golden barges, Ramasaz, and the frontier for trade within Lormyr itself, Ramasaz. 400 years ago, Lormyr was the first of the later dubbed Young Kingdoms to break free of Monibane's rule. Under the rule of Queen Eloarde and her champion/lover, Earl Albec of Malador, Lormyr not only won its independence, but it carved its new lands directly out of unformed chaos. This is something we've covered in our first episode, and if you haven't seen it, now would be a good time to go back and check it out. You're back already? Well, let's continue. After Eloarde's death, Lormyr gradually loosened into a republic and it held itself for 2 centuries until it collapsed 200 years before Elric is crowned emperor. Since that time, Lormyr remains a kingdom. There is relative calm in the capital, but the picture is entirely different in other parts of Lormyr. The nation we're sailing to today is ruled by King Fadan, and Lormyr is a very pleasant and tranquil nation of all the south. After his death in the sack of Imber, the next ruler in line betrays the south and joins forces with the forces of Pantank and Chaos. As we sail, we walk out to the poop deck and we feel warm currents from the boiling sea, which is what hugs the coast of Lormyr. We overhear some of the crewmates talking in the common tongue, which is the language most common in the Young Kingdoms. It is the type of Low Monibanian. We should note here there are many different accents across the Young Kingdoms, and some of the other languages that are known to be spoken are Low Monibanian, which is very difficult to learn for most human settlers. High or Old Monibanian speech is the formal tongue of the Empire and is also used in the casting of spells. Other languages exist across the east, and the language of the Dartsi still exists. There's also an alien language used in Pantank, a topic for another day. There is the squawking clicks that make up the Mirn, impossible for anyone except the winged folk to pronounce. And both these languages that we just mentioned, they have their own written format. However, the Mirn one is purely pictographic. So that is about the languages of the Young Kingdom. Let's take another deep breath of air before we get back to our cabin as we approach the coast of Ramasaz. The docks of Ramasaz are coming into view. It is no spectacle compared to the owls of the Purple Town, but we have a strong sensation of frontier, the cradle of humanity in this world of dragon riding, spellcasting, and demon swords. We do not see any smokestacks or steam whistles. Every hull around the harbor is powered by ore and elbow grease. If we expected steamboats and gunpowder, we are a bit early. The concept of that technology is still unknown. However, the scientists, priests of law are nearing their discovery. What we see around us as we walk around the city are mills, water driven looms, hand operated printing presses. None of these are common by any chance, but they are no miracle either. Magic had strong influence over the world and how it was shaped. And now the rules of law, slow mechanical tools have started to coexist alongside it. What we see the dock workers and merchants wearing is nothing extravagant: linen, leathers, woolen garments, and furs for those deeper into the steppes. What sits around the scabbard of every suspicious character are the distinct Lormyrian axes and broadswords in the trademark Lormyrian style. What we would find around the military's armory is half plates and small shields. Well, we've walked around for a while, and we're walking finally into our previously hinted on many occasions Lormyrian inn. We're going to be paying with bronzers, as they refer to locally. Many of the trades we saw on our way happen in the traditional sense through barter, especially with the fur trappers and farmers. Melnibonean coins do exist, but ordinary folk, and especially superstitious ones, are trusted as much as Melnibone itself. That is to say, not very much. We buy a round of drinks and sit around. Tomorrow, we're heading towards the capital of Iosaz. We shake off the tavern haze and leave behind Ramasaz's. We will be traveling to the heart of Lormyr, Iosaz. To get there, we will travel along the Zafra-Tropic river system, a massive system that serves as a trade artery connecting all inland merchants of Lormyr to cities like Treposazus and the frozen landscape of Alorasaz. As we peer into the distance, the site of Iosaz is nearing, surrounded by hills and valleys along the river. We get told a legend by a local farmer passing by, a legend of how the river was created by a mortal man who carved it with a plow to drain a flood that was threatening his land. Immortality was granted to him, and today he is celebrated as a progenitor of the royal bloodline of Lormyr. If we expected a slight difference from what we saw in Ramasaz, we'd be surprised. As the oldest capital of humanity, society has mellowed out, and the capital is very picturesque. It is a tranquil corner of the world that still leans heavily into unshakable feudal tradition. The priests of law around the capital have grown elderly and stuck in their own ways. No new initiates have joined for decades, while riverfolk still use charms honoring Simish, the mortal who plowed the river in old days. We stay at the Woko Inn once again and chat with the Wokos in the common tongue. We learn about the politics of Lormyr. Lormyr is a monarchy, but its cities act independently as city-states. This gives us some context for our next journey. As Alorasaz exercises autonomy from Iosaz, the capital, despite the nobility swearing loyalty to the royal line. We learn that King Montas rarely interfered in the lives and governance of his nobles, as long as taxes and tributes continued to flow into the treasury. We head in for the night and prepare our coats for our coldest journey yet, and most dangerous place in all of Lormyr. As we leave the capital, we walk over the moss-covered statues of Oro Albek. And as the feudalism of the capital gives way to something far more primitive, we remember Earl Albec, the man who carved the world for Lormyrians. In Lormyr, he's far more than just a historical figure. He is a demigod that is anticipated to come back once again from the beyond world's edge to lead Lormyr to victory again. The Code of Albec cites a text from the early Lormyrian history. After conquering all the south, except for the mysterious Canaloon, he ventured all by himself to siege the castle and subjugate its inhabitants against chaos beyond the world's edge, and he has never been seen alive again in Lormyr. Further south, the myth of Albec grows even darker, and he is worshipped by barbarians who build grim looting statues in his likeness that flicker with the light raw of chaoplasm during certain times of the year. But our brutal journey to Alorasaz has almost concluded. We stop and peer over the city in the distance, built in the shadow of the Clant Mountains where Albec of Malador was born. This part of the world was never conquered by the Melniboneans and remained a bastion of humanity for over 500 years. The name itself means River City of Alor in the low tongue of Melnibonean, and the Duke Alor of Clant, who was its founder. As we walk through the lower gates, we see how deeply integrated into his culture hunting is. Bear and wolf pelts decorate the shoulders of the locals. Caravans loaded with furs travel out of the gates, most likely towards the capital, and as we walk in, boats loaded with timber and preserved meat and more furs are being loaded into the river harbor to travel downstream. We walk further into the city and see that hunting is not the only pastime and lifeblood of the locals. Woodsmiths hard at work, charcoal burners, trappers, lumber cutters, millers, and brewers, all part of the respective guilds, go about their craft. We're freezing as we walk into the cheapest inn and order some of the local brew. As the short day comes to an end, more of the locals come in, and we trade stories for a meal. We tell them about our journey by boat into Ramasaz, the long slippery paths along the mighty river and into Iosaz, and about our journey through the frozen landscape that is the homeland. They listen to us the way people that didn't leave their city often listen, and as the fire starts dying down, we head to our beds for the night. And that is Lormyr, from a bustling naval frontier through tranquil capital bound in tradition to a frozen bastion of pure willpower. There are already a lot of mysteries we need to uncover and many other places to visit, and I have a feeling Castle Canaloon and its Dark Lady will be more than just a footnote in our next episode. Thank you so much for joining today's journey into Lormyr. And as always, make sure you subscribe to explore the rest of Moorcock's world with me. And be aware, the journey will be long and perilous, and I'll be glad to have you with me.